Welcome back to It Tastes Like Burning. This is Matt.
This is Jesse.
And as usual, go through the old podcast notes here real quick. If you want to, shout out at us at ittasteslikeburningcast at gmail.com. You can always find us at Twitter at ITLBcast, and the same for the subreddit. And if you're ever feeling real froggy and you like stickers, you can find us on Patreon at It Tastes Like Burning. We're going to have a continuation of just kind of a common theme that we always round back into, and it's just recruiting and retention. So, Jesse, take it away.
Well, just some things of late, and I've noticed some things and had some discussions with some outside folks. One of the things that I thought was funny and ironic was the State Farm and Fire Marshals had a survey here a while back, and they haven't released the full results of the survey, but they made sure that they released the results of one question, and it was, why did you become a volunteer firefighter? And as the results go, the overwhelming answer was to give back to my community.
Right.
Yeah, and I think the way you ask questions in those surveys, and we did a survey on our own with our department not too long ago, and we used some canned questions, but I think you can word some of those questions differently to get more true responses. Is that a way to put it? I think that the canned question of why did you become a volunteer fire department, and the canned answer of to help my community is that's what you're expected to say. So that's what gets said,
right?
Because that's what's expected, and I don't think it's necessarily false, but it's not necessarily true either, right? It's not the whole truth.
Oh, I would argue sure, there's someone that believes that.
Well, I think it grows into that, right?
It did for me.
I think
I can say that I never started because I was feeling altruistic.
Yeah. No, you didn't walk in the door because that was what drew you to the door. I need to do something for my community. Well, you can pick up trash on the highway or go mow the park or whatever. There's 1,000 other things that you can do.
Feed stray cats.
There's 1,000 other things you can do. Soup kitchen, whatever. And those things are not the same. They're not on the same playing field. They're not on the same level. They're not even in the same universe of commitment and risk, right?
Right. Well, I think it really boils down to it doesn't really matter why you joined. I think that point is, so
why'd you stick around?
Well, I think that would be the enjoyment part.
Right.
But why you joined is going to be not turnkey. It's going to be very specific to each and every individual. I can think of a young guy that recently joined us that even if he gave us the most canned, let's be honest, he did give us the canned interview questions. But let me tell you, for a canned interview question, these were the absolute best to have. And coming off of his interview, it's like, oh, well, Christ, I wish I'd have said half of that, because that would have sounded really smart.
Well, yeah. Are you talking about the one that said that he was trying to be a better man?
Right.
Yeah, which is an awesome answer. I mean, that's really an awesome answer.
Yeah.
And I'll put more validity in that answer than I would in the old shucks. I just want to help Grandma.
Yeah.
Because the reality is these 18, 19, 20-year-old kids have no sense of community whatsoever. Like, it's just...
No, they want to play with fire and not go to federal prison.
That's it. That's the answer. And what I see is the ones, like the older people that are coming back into the volunteer fire service or the fire service in general that are that have had a stretch of being away, right? So you've got older people that are, say, late 40s to 70s, and they're showing up, and their answer is, I just want to have fun. Right. Or I just want to be part of the group, or, something of that nature, or I just miss the brotherhood, or all those things. And I think that's the selling piece that a lot of us are missing when we're out here doing this recruiting, because I think the ones that are truly wanting to give back to their community, you're going to get those regardless. And that's such a small percentage of the total population that's out there.
And that, quite frankly, they're already going to be involved in 75 other organizations. Right. A very good example of that would be one of our board members. Older gentleman, world-class act, top-notch guy, and it is a travesty that he never became a volunteer firefighter anywhere in his life. And the problem is now is that he's older and he's got some health issues, and there's no way that he doesn't think he can be a volunteer in any capacity, because I've had this discussion with him. And he is beyond thrilled by just the association and his contribution on the board. And I think along the lines of what you're talking about, yeah, okay, fine. Helping your community. Awesome. Good. There's 5,000 other reasons that are just as good or better to do this. And there's nothing wrong with advertising that and giving people more of a heads up, particularly just on a national level with what the messaging is. And you see it on both sides of the aisle. This sense of where people have lost community, fellowship, friends, bad relationships with their friends and family that they do have, and this kind of tribal kick to, tribal's the wrong word here, but this national effort to acknowledge that maybe social media and your time online isn't the best thing in the world, and trying to figure out how to go join a tribe somewhere.
Right.
And I mean, I was still always revert back to a joke that I make about being a firefighter or volunteer firefighter. It's free, it's cool, and it's addictive. And you're having a hard time selling it. Your messaging's wrong, because you shouldn't be having a hard time selling all of that. And your organization can be the groundwork for young men and women to try and help them get their crap together, to help them give them a direction and a career. It can be a place for that new family that maybe just moved into an area and, trying to find a place to fit in at and a place to belong. Or it can be for that middle-aged man or woman that, kind of the empty nester syndrome's going on and they need something to go do. Or even if you're straight up retired and you're sick and tired of seeing your wife or your spouse and you're just ready to bail out of the house for 12 hours a day, go to the fire department. I mean, it's the catch-all for everything, serious, minor, and comical in between.
So we've talked ad nauseum about, sometimes on record and sometimes just in our discussions around that, we're on a growth trend. Our department's on a steady growth trend. We've been on a growth trend for a couple of years now. We're strong membership wise. We have lots of members. We're in no way looking to stop that growth trend, right? So, but we see all the way around us in every direction, they're not in the growth trends.
They're just dying the death of 10,000 paper cuts.
So what do you see as some of the things, and we can probably name 10 things that we do different that have helped us stay in that growth trend?
I think from my perspective is, and I guarantee you our young guys would disagree with this, But we do try and keep them in the loop and keep them in the discussion on, we'll say, the general direction of the department, and not just, hey, what flavor of popsicle do you guys want? It's more of, this is going on. What do you guys think? How do you feel about this? Tell me about that. And they may give you some really just crooked as a question mark response. And it kind of helps me realize that, oh, they're not looking at this from the angle that I'm thinking, me personally, they need to be looking at it. So that's when I'll pull out like a sharpened stick and poke them in a different direction and get them to try and start looking at things from a bigger picture or a different angle. And again, it's just to try and help give them some sort of semblance of actual true participation in the organization. And it gives them, at the end of the day, an ownership factor to it. And they know that maybe I'm not necessarily going to take their 19-year-old opinion, but at least we had a discussion about it.
Well, and the other side of that is if you can, because a lot of the things that happen and decisions that get made are, there's 42 factors in it, and they see 3 of them. And they don't truly understand.
Yeah, and they don't understand 2.5 of it.
Right.
So,
and if you can help 1 or 2 of them understand, they can turn around and help the other ones understand it, because all they know is that they want to be the first one to be through the door with the nozzle. That's it. That's what they know. Or they all want to drive. Right? That's the other thing.
I think you were at the station when I said this the other day. So we were, it looks like that we're going to get another ladder truck. It's not quite 100%, but it looks like we're going to get another one. So we'll be technically 3 trucks, but one of them needs to go away. So we'll be at 2 new trucks, true trucks. Technically, you can call them quints, but they're over 100 feet long. So 100 or longer. So they're not quints. They're trucks. And semantics there. Sorry for everyone. Anyways, and we were just talking about the spec of the trucks and the discussion about the amount of seats that were on the truck. Should it have 4 seats or should it have 6? And people were asking me this and looking at me. And I literally said, I have done the hard part. I got us the truck. You figure out how many seats we have, because I don't care. Yeah. This has been a 6-8 month battle, 8, and I've done the hard part. You guys tell me, as long as it doesn't have like gold spinners on it, on the wheels, we'll be okay. Whatever you guys pick, that's what we're gonna do.
And at least the good news is we'll see it in 2026.
Yeah.
You know, that's the craziness with the fire truck market right now.
Oh yeah, no, the fire truck stuff's insane. To continue this discussion, but that's one of the things that like makes us different. I'm the chief, and I'm telling you, I got the truck. You guys go spec it. I'm having nothing to do with the spec of that truck, nothing. Because that's one way to give a nod of the old head to the membership. And, just let's be honest. It's not like I have a bunch of 16 and 20-year-olds on that committee. There may or may not be, 4 guys with a combined age of 3,000 years that are also the head of that committee. But I told all of them that very specifically to sit down with the young guys and get their damn opinion and ask them X, Y, and Z. Yeah. It's stuff like that.
Because there's a 50% chance we'll put a crank start on the front of it.
Right.
If we don't, get some other input into the...
Most people won't understand this, but I'd be fine with that because back when I was in aviation and a flight instructor, I've done some hand propping in my life.
Yeah.
I hand propped a Baron once. That's a big motor.
Yeah.
It's a big motor. I had a lot of people watching me cartwheel through that. But I mean, that's just one factor of it. I mean, to kind of go full circle on the recruiting part, it's scary at how great the website is. Just talk about that for a second. Yeah. You guys need a website, and here's the hard part. You need to figure out how to build traffic on the website because you're not going to build it naturally. No one's looking for your little no-name organization randomly online. I mean, in our town of 11,000 people, I still swear up and down that there's not 500 people that know that we're actually volunteer. The vast majority of the city thinks that we're paid, career department. And what we've done to derive a huge amount of traffic to our website and interest in the organization is Facebook. Now, you got to think about who your target audience is anymore with Facebook. It is, our age, 40 to 90. Yeah. And that's who your main target with Facebook's going to be. But the one thing I'll tell you to consider in this is that Facebook's, the kids aren't on it, but their parents are. So you need to derive advertising and talking points that are talking to parents that maybe aren't interested. But you can have career development. You can have, God, my brain just fried there. But have messaging that's targeted at parents to relay to their children.
Yeah, because one of the travesties of volunteer fire department websites is there's 11,000 pictures of trucks with every spec for every truck written and all the details of it's got a 410 geared axle, and that means nothing. Like, that's built for firemen. They're already firemen.
Right, and no one cares about that.
No one
Let's
cares
just
about that.
be frank. No one cares about that. I mean, every single part of our webpage has an application link to it.
Every page.
Every part of our webpage is either department history or department function or department mission with a link on it and to the application. Because again, what are you trying to do? What is the whole purpose of the website? Is it a community involvement, literally PR website, community announcements? We're doing X, we're doing Y, we're doing Z. Here's an update on the organization.
Thursday.
Right. Yeah. Or are you trying to recruit people? If you are trying to recruit people, dump the truck profiles, dump the station profiles, go to an actual recruiting website, talk about the organization, talk about what you do in the community, and apply. Every single page needs to have an application.
And one of the key parts of that is talk about your training program. Because the training program is what, the website and all that gets them in the door.
I think at the end of the day, for us, that's truly, I think that is our true hook, line, and sinker for us.
That's our secret sauce.
Is that we have an accredited program. We have the ability for anyone to make a career change at any time. We have multiple people here that have helped people make the career change or are in the career they're trying to change to. So we have guidance, leadership, and direction in all facets and in all capacities and in all recommendations. And it ends ultimately with us saying, you see that guy over there? You need to really go talk to them because they're going to be able to be the gatekeeper for Dallas. This guy over here is the gatekeeper for Fort Worth. This guy's the gatekeeper for the entire area. This guy's the gatekeeper for all these small departments. And it's just the combination of that with the fact that we do have new equipment. We're a bigger organization. We're run, of course, I'm going to be biased when I say this, but at least comparatively to other organizations, we're run really well. We at least appear to be run really well.
Yeah.
We pass the sniff and visual test of being run real well. And just call volume. I mean, it's just, we have a lot of little boxes to tick for just about anyone out there. So if you're looking to just volunteer, we can definitely hit that.
So my thoughts and my theory on it is that we have removed barriers to entry. And I think that's one of the keys to success. We have removed some of the barriers to entry. We have not removed the standard, right? The standard's the standard, and the standard hasn't changed. And that expectation and that standard goes up over time. And that's part of it.
Right.
So we're not lowering the standard. We're removing the barriers to entry. So what I look at the barriers to entry, that's that, I've got to go find somebody to turn in an application. I've got to figure out when somebody's going to be at that building to learn what it's about. I've got to do these 75 things before I can go apply. Or I've got to get told no 3 times and see if I come back. Or all these other things. We've taken away one of the things, and it's in its infancy, is that residency requirement, right?
Oh, yeah.
And that's a barrier to entry, because there's what we're learning and what we're seeing is a lot of the departments that are in our area and our surrounding areas that are removing those residency requirements are finding guys that are, they're just not quite mature enough or old enough, or they can't afford to go to a college for a fire program, and they need help, but they don't have the money. But they're picking up those guys that are driving an hour or whatever to come in and cover standby and get the free training and be part of the organization. And chances are those guys are going to move on at some point, right?
Sure. Oh, it's guaranteed. But
how many people are they going to tell about your organization and what you did for them?
Right. But this, we'll segue for just 1 second, because I talk to this about our city all the time. I'm like, tell me the ultimate form of community service. We take young men and women, they join our organization, we give them task, purpose, and orientation. We get them set up on a solid career that is noteworthy and worthwhile, and get them established in their careers. 3 to 5 years later, they're gone. Is that not a benefit? Well, it's a colossal benefit. How is that not one of the ultimate forms of community service? And we're making our community better by one young individual at a time. And it's not a golden woodchuck stamp that we're putting on them. If they go through and get their full fire cert and take a career as a firefighter, don't get me wrong, there's some dirtbags out there, but the quality of individual already is above average at that level.
And chances are they're coming back to you.
Good chance.
It may not be 1 year or 5 years down the road, but 10 or 15 years down the road, they're coming back to you.
Right. And they're going to be referencing people to you. And as they build their careers, they're going to remember you. And then 10, 15 years down the road, they're a damn officer, a captain, something higher. And here you are sending the next junior woodchuck down the pipeline to them. I mean, it's a really beautiful system when you get to it. And again, that's something that's just unique to us is, hell, just in my time here, I think I've probably been, I won't say responsible, but I've been involved in over 30 people taking careers in this.
Yeah.
So, And I've only done it for 13 years.
Yeah, it's a huge part of it, and that pathway and that access to people that are influential in some of these places and all that. It's insanely valuable to those young guys, and I think that's one of the key things that we do a little bit different, right? We're willing to accept the fact that you may only be here for a year or two. We're willing to accept the fact that we'll take the college kid that only wants to be here during the summer, and we're not going to do anything for him but start teaching him stuff. We're
Right.
not going to get we're not going to reap the benefits of the training that we're pouring into that kid right now. But when he finishes college and he starts his career, if he's close enough to us, he's coming back to us.
Yeah, but again, that kind of goes back to my other argument on the ultimate community service. And some people won't acknowledge that you're sending that kid off to college and he's going to volunteer somewhere else. And it's like, God, the departments that are passing on that, first off, you're straight idiot. You're so incompetent that it's hilarious, because I'm sorry, you can't be screaming from the mountaintop that no, we need volunteers. And then when I send you a volunteer that's state certified and you're like, well, you got to live here, you got to be here year round. Yeah. Dumbass, they're going to be there 8 months. That's quite a bit of time that you're just willing to pass on.
Yeah. And some of your busier times too, right? They're going to be there in the summer. They're going to be there at the holidays. They're going to be there at some of your busier times of the year. I had a discussion with a friend of mine that's an assistant chief on another department. We were talking about this out of district residency thing, and he's like, I don't understand how those people help you. And I said, it's real simple. They show up and hang out at the station for days a week, like literally days a week. They're here all the time, and their sole purpose when they're here is running calls. And he's like, oh.
Yeah.
Well, that makes sense.
Yeah, when I literally tell you that we have a volunteer fire department with an out of the door time, en route time, tone out to en route, 2 minutes and 30 seconds, averaged across 180 calls a month. How do you think we're doing that? I mean, last month we were below 2 minutes en route.
Yeah, we'll yearly average in that 215 range every year. And it's because people are there spending time, because honestly, if you're not there, you're not going to make the call. Like the chances of some of these people that even live in town, unless they live across the street, they're not making it to the station. They're not making a call.
My funniest complaint about this is the people that complain the most about that make the least amount of calls.
Right.
I just sit there and, I'm a big believer in Southern idioms. Bless your heart.
Yeah.
I just sit there and look at them and, it's just like, God almighty, stop asking the dog on the front porch what the weather's doing. Just how incompetent can you be? That is not the point to make.
But it boils down to you've got to have some way to get them in the door, right?
That's the hardest part. And I would argue, I don't want to say we figured it out.
I don't think we've totally figured it out. I think we figured out pieces of it.
Yeah.
And there's room for more growth and more figuring out. But I think that maybe some outside opinion or perspective on it would be good. And that's why I brought this up as a topic of conversation today, because I'm really curious of all the people out there listening to us.
Yeah.
What's working in your department?
Yeah, or not working. That would be fantastic. I mean, because truly that's kind of the real purpose of this, is there's not a lot of fire podcasts out there, but there sure as hell's not many for volunteer. And I mean, at the end of the day, that's really what we're trying to do here, is build a network off of this. And it'd be fantastic if someone outside that knows us directly would tell us like what it's like in New Jersey or Oregon. The good, the bad, the indifferent. Where are you struggling? Where's the things that you found great success with? Because no matter how good or bad or how hard you're struggling or how overabundant the amount of people you have is, there's a message and a story that's just being kept very tight. And it's very local.
Or they've been told by so many other people. I don't know. That won't work here.
Mm-hmm.
That we can't make that work. Well, that's the gist of it. I don't think all these things work everywhere. I don't think any of these things work everywhere.
Right.
I think it's so diverse and it's so just all over the place, and what'll work in certain areas and what won't work. That I kind of want to build that list, right? I want to build that list of the 50 things that you can do that might work, and let's put it out there for people. Because if we're sitting here relying on bureaucrats to come up with a plan to how to recruit volunteer firefighters and fix this, and they're not all bureaucrats, but they're our organizations, our trade organizations, the NBC, the U.S. Fire Administration, all these entities that are trying to figure this out. If we're relying on bureaucrats to figure this out, guys, we're never going to get an answer.
Yeah.
They can't figure out pretty much anything.
I'm here from the government, and I'm here to help you.
Yes. So, I think these things have to be figured out through our stories and the stories of other departments that are having success with things. Because I know there's departments that are having tremendous success with things that we're not even thinking about doing.
Right.
And, do we need to do all of those things? We may not need to do all those things. Like, there's a cap and there's a number that, once we got to that number, we would have too many people.
I wish we had a college in town, a legitimate working college in town.
Yeah.
Because I have the plan for that. But I don't have a college. So, if you've got
if you've got a college and you want to come to Texas, give us a shout.
If you got a college and your volunteer fire department's struggling, shoot us an email, because I got some stuff I can run by you. Because I can guarantee you this is... And the kicker is this isn't my own fresh idea.
No, there's people doing it.
There's people doing it. There's a department just south of us doing it, and they just run amok with it. Penn State does it. Yeah. Penn State has an entire dorm and program dedicated to their volunteer firefighters. Let me say that. They did. I don't know if they still do.
Yeah. So this stuff's out there and different things in different places for sure. But, man, share those stories with us, because I'm not going to tell you we're going to write a book on it, but we might. But the point of it is to learn, right? We never stop learning. You get to my point, and I've taught and trained hundreds and hundreds of firefighters, and I'm not telling you that I know everything about firefighting, because I definitely don't. But there's new avenues to learn things, and I want to learn some of the things that maybe are harder, complex problems to figure out than, we go left for life and right to fight.
Right.
There's some truly complex problems that I'd like to take my shot at figuring out. And I think we're working through a bunch of that stuff, and it's, nothing's fast or easy. No, it's worthwhile.
No, right? and that's the one thing that I would really highlight in this is that, the department was pretty stagnant when I joined 13 years ago. And I don't want to say I'm by any means bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, and I'm definitely not a the glass is half full or the glass is half empty. I'm a realist. It's half.
Yeah.
It's at half. That's where it's at. But the difference between me in my time on this department is that if I stumbled into something that I didn't like, I did one of two things, usually in conjunction. I usually talked to people about it and tried to get them to see my way, and then just did it myself. Problem is that doesn't work as chief, because you will theoretically die the death of 10,000 administrative paper cuts if you do that. But what you can do is talk about it and try and get people's opinions, and then it be somewhere in there inspirational, or at least management enough to either get someone to take care of it or give them the order to take care of it, and they're not going to complain doing it because they have ownership in it.
So, and that brings us back into my full circle of what I thoughts, beliefs, and opinions, right? And my opinions are that of my own, and some of them stink. But so I see the whole compensated volunteer thing as a give up. I gave up.
Oh, I think it's useless, personally.
I think it's giving in to the pressure of, we can't figure this out, so let's throw money at this problem and see if we can make something work.
Right.
And I see a lot of departments that are going down that rabbit hole, and they're end up doing an injustice to the people they serve, because when they were volunteer, and they were all volunteer, and nobody was getting compensated, they might have 5 or 6 people that were showing up for a call. Well, at least now that they're compensating, they have the one person or the 2 people that they're compensating show up for the call.
Right.
And the other 4 or 5 are nowhere to be found because they're not being compensated today.
Right.
And I see that as a cautionary tale when the departments and organizations venture down that path, because it's relativity, right? It's Newton's law. It's for everything there's an equal and opposite, and you're putting yourself in a position where you don't know what the unintended consequences of some of those things are, and they really they bleed on that stuff. Like, they get in binds on that stuff.
The only compensated volunteer program that I'd be wholeheartedly for is, and we benefit from it, and it's a hard sell sometimes, but for people that are part of our pension.
Yeah.
And our pension's 10 years vested, 15 fully. And I'm okay with that. Because I'm at 13 years and I'm wholeheartedly behind this program. 2, but it generates longevity. It's an attempt to make a long-term solution, not today's problem. How do I get people here today? We're trying to answer, how do we keep people here for 10 to 15 years?
Yeah. And that list is pretty small, the people that make it for 10 or 15 years, right? It's just the law of averages on the thing. And
we're 2 years above the national volunteer firefighter lifespan in the organization. The national average is right at 5 years, and we're at like 7.5.
Yeah. And I think I don't think it's a selling point for recruiting. I think it's a selling point for retention. I don't think anybody's showing up because they want to spend 15 years to get their retirement out of the volunteer fire department. Now, some of them will go, oh, that's pretty awesome, I'll stick around to do that. But that's not what's bringing them in the door by any stretch of the imagination. And if it is, that's a really weird person.
Yeah.
They're a strange duck. There's so much more to offer. And I think that the pension and the way that it's done, because I spent 20 years in the pension system before I came here and was on the other end of the spectrum. So that the city where I came from paid the minimum amount.
$1.40 a year and a sack of French fries.
Yeah. And so I have 20 years of nothing, and now I'm working on the next 20 of something, right? And I don't have 20 more to give. I guess I could, but woohoo. Yeah, I'll be decrepit at that point. Uh, old and decrepit.
Yeah, it might take another week or two to just say, hey, that's enough.
I put my boots on. I did it. I didn't poop my gear.
We need a harness for the seeing eye dog I use.
Yeah. But that's a super awesome program. The compensated thing, and I see is where it's some minuscule amount, and I say minuscule because it's not minuscule to everybody, but it's not where I could live my lifestyle at $100 a shift or whatever it is, $10 an hour or whatever the amount is that's subpar pay. It's not real pay. It's not, and the reality is the people that are going to commit to that are the people that a $10 or $15 an hour job is an upgrade for, right?
Well, and the other problem is that one advantage that we have with our organization is all of our stuff is hot and new.
Yeah.
We don't have old and busted. You don't get hot and new the second you start having staffing.
No, that goes away because there's a pot and it's only so big.
Yeah, you gonna have old and busted the rest of your damn life with that organization. And I mean, recruiting with hot and new is a lot easier than old and busted.
Yeah.
And again, that's just one factor. Now, out of the gate, I don't know if I'd say, hey, go start with a brand new tower at $2.2 million, maybe something else, especially if you're one of the real small departments out there running, 100, 250 calls a year, maybe less.
But if your truck smokes and dies,
yeah,
and won't make it more than 2 or 3 blocks without catching on fire,
or it's older than 4 or 5 year members combined,
yeah, maybe it's time to think about that stuff because it's a factor. And trust me, I come from poor, broke volunteer fire department where we did not have money, but we figured out ways through grants and other funding opportunities to make things happen. And those opportunities are there for everybody. They weren't just there for us. You just got to kind of get off your ass and work on it. Like, we go into all this stuff, and that's another solid point. Like, there's jobs here for everybody, no matter what their ambitions or goals is. Like, if some guy shows up and says, man, I really don't want to put an air pack on, but I know how to write a grant. What do you tell that guy? You tell him, come on.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's somebody playing with a motorized device. Yeah, he should probably turn that off. But
where are we at in this, Critter? How far?
We're pretty long. We can call it.
Okay.
But good discussion, and guys, reach out to us.
Yeah, please reach out to us because this is something that we'd love to really talk about just a ton more, and start bouncing ideas off of.
Yeah. And the ways they can get us?
You can find us at Twitter at itlbcast. You can get us at Reddit at the subreddit itlbcast. And always, and realistically, shoot us an email at ittasteslikeburningcast@gmail.com. And as always, stickers from Patreon.
Yeah, and all this stuff will be in the podcast description, so dive down there and you can click a live link, which is way easier than remembering and typing out everything we misspelled when we made all these addresses.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. All right. Appreciate it.
Good night.